To me personally, Philmont is the pinnacle of scouting here in the United States. I've now been there 4 times. It's an awesome place. I highly recommend you going. But how can we backpack lighter at Philmont? And so I'd like you to welcome back to our video series Sam Francis and Pat Rabun, both Scoutmasters.
Philmont is not an experience where you can basically pack your food at home and take control of that situation. This is what I've done here is I've actually got 4 days worth of Philmont food for a single individual, assuming a trek size of 12 people. Phil food is heavy, and Phil food is very, takes a lot of volume in your pack. This is a problem when you're trying to outfit yourself, and why I think it's so. This is an average breakfast, not very heavy, but one of their lunches. This has got big thing of crackers in there. It's got 2 cans of meat for lunch. This is heavy. This is what you'll be issued by Philmont. That first day, you're going to be carrying all this food, 8 pounds worth. That's got to fit in your pack. You got your gear packed in there, but there's no room for any gear. Notice how in the top of Sam's pack, basically his gear stops right down in here. The rest of this is volume. Plus, everybody gets a share of crew gear. That's another limitation. You're going to carry your crew gear with you. Crew gear and 4 days worth of food. If you don't have room in your pack for that, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have to shed some gear while you're at base camp because you got to take the food.
One of the things you want to think about anyway is reducing the volume, reducing trash, reducing everything, no matter what you're doing and where you're going. This is a Cuban fiber bag. You can get a sil nylon. You get a very lightweight bag that's waterproof, and that this should be big enough to carry personal food for one person for 4 days. I'd say you pull apart each bag because why do you need to carry all this plastic?
Each year Philmont sells their food from the previous year. You can buy it and use it. Even if you only do it on one shakedown, you'll be exposed to it.
Tents, no tarps. That's a rule because you could really go a lot lighter at Philmont if you could use a different shelter system.
Adults can be in a one-man tent, and so you're going to be under 2 pounds for your tent. But the boys can't. They all have to sleep in a minimum of a 2-man tent. So look at your tents to be under 5 pounds so that when you divide the load up, you're looking at 2.5 pounds. This year, they've got to have a floor in it. They've changed it where a floor is required.
Crew gear, the pots and the stoves, pretty big and heavy.
Another limitation is it would be really cool if you could use those little alcohol stoves. You can't do that. You either have to use a white gas stove or a isobutane stove, one of the little canister type stoves. And I recommend if you're going to buy a stove, Philmont has become much more friendly with the isobutane canister type stove, but get a remote canister stove. You wind up eliminating that issue with the canister getting too hot. You want a stove with some stability because when you get 4 quarts of water on top of this thing, you don't want, and your boys are doing the cooking, you're not doing it. Phillips Junction and all the backcountry area, supply areas have the isobutane canisters. You got to know how many canisters to take. We're going to be using 2 at once. We're going to be boiling 8 quarts of water basically in 2 4-quart pots.
It makes a difference depending on your crew size. Maximum crew size at Philmont is 12. If you've got a crew of 7, 2 adults and 5 scouts, the logistics around that on your fuel and everything else, and then the time it takes to prepare and heat water, and there is going to be different between 7 and 12. Another piece of crew gear is an old Frisbee that they've used an awl and they've punched holes in, and you're supposed to strain that in and somehow filter it down and scrape it with a spoon and then collect the yum-yums, as they call them, and put them in a plastic bag and carry those little joyful bits with you forever. Paint strainer, Home Depot or Lowe's, 99 cents. They're light enough that if you wanted to have a different one for every single day, you could do it and you wouldn't really worry about volume or weight. You can even put this directly over the sump screen, pour down on top, then flip it and put it in the bag. I love these silicone bowls. You can bend them, squish them, put them in any shape you want. They're still extremely light. Given that they're smooth on the inside, you can get this clean with a spoon, eat everything out of it, put water in it, move it around, drink it, continue hydrating, and basically have a bowl that is essentially almost this clean by the time you start cleaning.
This is all part of bear procedures, which is critical at Philmont. At any time at Philmont, there's over 150 bears on that 125,000 acre Philmont property. Bears can be a problem, and the reason they're not a huge problem is because of these bear procedures, but it does put a limitation on what you can do as far as lightweight backpacking. You've got to carry a bear rope, you've got to carry multiple bear bags, you've got the sumping procedures. Pay close attention to your bear procedures with your boys.
The rope you see on the right is a Amsteel Blue, 3/16 inch diameter. It's a 4,900 pound test. It's lightweight, actually made of Dyneema fabric that's coiled. It's got a polyurethane coating to protect it and to give it color. There's a lot of good resources online. It's too small really to pull up that weight just with your hands. So you have to devise a way to tie a stick on to have the scouts pull.
Do not let your boys carry food to their tents. If they've got food on their clothes, it goes in the bear bag at night. That's why we carry the bear bag. Anything that's got any sort of food residue on it goes in the bear bag. Anything that's had Gatorade in it, any drink bottle that's had Gatorade in it ever goes in the bear bag. Anything that's a smellable at all, and your ranger will do a good job of talking about this, goes in the bear bag. As long as you abide by these procedures, take it seriously. The big three is where you're going to save the most weight on your pack, and Philip's presentation on it was perfect. You've got it. That's where you get the most bang for the buck. The internet has a lot of information on Philmont. Just Google it, and you'll get all kinds of. If you want to know about Philmont cooking, Google Philmont cooking, and you'll get page after page of different people's perspectives on Philmont cooking. So probe those resources and come up with your own method. If you see something that's about carrying food or something that works, do it.
Well, this is another great example of a pack that could be cinched down, but can also give you high volume.
The Mariposa Plus has volume, and it only weighs 1.5 pounds. This actual pack has been to Philmont twice, and other treks and trips and shakedowns, and plenty of volume for what you're going to be doing there, and a great weight.
This is pretty neat. It's a Cuban fiber sack, and it doubles it could be your clothing sack or stuff sack. This is my pillow. This is my heavyweight jacket. Really, this with the other layering I'd take is all that I would take to Philmont. It weighs 8 ounces. And another thing that can be challenging for those that haven't been yet, part of bear procedures at Philmont, they're going to insist that you cluster your tents, not in a pattern, not with rows, but clumped and clusters. So you've got to figure out how to position your tents, get them in the space, and sometimes you don't have the ideal place. So other stuff, clothing, hydration, miscellaneous. We've talked a little bit about the zip-off pants. There are a certain program at Philmont that you have to have long pants in order to participate in the program.
Think real carefully about bringing a lot of extra clothes. Don't do it. This is all the knife you need. It's got scissors on it. It's got a toothpick. It's got tweezers. I wouldn't suggest totally stopping your scouts, but suggest to your scouts that they take something like this. It's much lighter. And then the little photon freedom lights were talked about earlier too, but these little Phoenix lights are neat as well.
What other things can you think about? Tent stakes, some different knives and multi-tools, Baldeo, the small 15. We've talked about different water bottles, the Nalgene, the heavy Nalgene. A wide mouth, though, is something that I think is important. So crew gear.
Each person does not carry an individual roll of toilet paper. Soap, we carry as crew gear. Toothpaste, crew gear. We actually carry the bowls, spoons, and cups as crew gear. The crew fly, there's a company called Oware who makes tarps and bivvies and that sort of thing. We buy our tarps from them. They make a very nice 10 by 14 tarp, weighs 26 ounces.
Don't go with the Philmont tarp. I mean, they're 4 pounds.
That's a place to save 3 pounds right there, almost 3 pounds of weight just on the tarp. And that's central because all your gear, you're not allowed to carry your pack to your tent at night. Your pack doesn't sleep with you. The crew fly is a huge piece of gear.
You think about where you're eating and cooking, your sump, and then your bear bags, and you have a triangle, and nothing important like bodies and tents and where you sleep needs to be inside that triangle of those 3 items. Because you want to think about your Bermuda triangle.
Is everybody fired up about going? I mean, honestly, it sounds intimidating with all the stuff that we've talked about and all the gear, and it's probably just like running around in your head, but power through it because it will be the best time your boys will have. You'll see them grow from you know, it's an amazing transition that they'll make, and you'll be part of it. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. It's worth the trouble, and lightweight backpacking makes it 10 times more fun than carrying a big, heavy pack. You'll be so much more able to enjoy it and remember it if you practice the lightweight backpacking techniques that we've been talking about all day.